evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Well, I hope everybody is having a wonderful beginning of the spring and you're able to swim out of your front. I mean, you're not having to swim out of your front door because, you know, the rain has been crazy. To all my Indiana Hoosiers who are struggling through some tornadoes that hit their communities, you know what? I'm hoping everybody is okay, that there wasn't a lot of loss of life, but hopefully the state of Indiana will step in and do what they're supposed to do to make sure that you can recover as quickly as you can. And guys, always remember, just because you're in a place where you think the tornado ain't coming, somebody needs some help. So consider, food banks, donating, doing what you can to help your fellow Hoosiers out who may be struggling through these hard times with this rough weather. And since we don't ever really want to address climate change, we'll just have to keep donating to food banks and clothing banks and things of that nature. One thing that I always hear when people need help, they always talk about they need socks and underwear and things like that. So if you have it in you to give a little bit, find the local organizations that's helping families out and give. All right. Also, this week, guys, tomorrow afternoon at the State House, if you have an opportunity, we're going to say so long and see you soon to Senator Jean Breaux at the State House. That ceremony will begin around 3. The doors open, I think, at 3. Ceremony starts at 4, so get there early. I will be there. I want to honor my state senator because, she was amazing. And I don't know if any of you guys read the Indianapolis Business Journal, but the April edition of Forefront, when it comes out, I toss a little tribute to her. And Mayor Tom Henry, his services will be next Saturday. Actually, they're going to have 2 days of viewing. You'll be able to view on 2 days, I believe the 11th and 12th, and the services will be on the 13th up in Fort Wayne. So, we're losing some key folks in our Democratic Party, but this is just an opportunity for folks to step up and do what's right and prepare themselves. And another thing that we need to be doing is reaching out to our young people. Make sure that we are giving our young people what they need to be successful in this space, because we're not going to live forever, as is evident. So I want to make sure that you guys got that information. All right, I got a rant. I do. The South Bend Tribune reports Indiana's de facto prohibition of popular hemp-derived products can remain in effect, a federal judge ruled last week, even as aggrieved business owners and industry advocates fight the ban in court. The plaintiffs in the case, all stakeholders in the region's hemp industry, had petitioned a U.S. District Court judge in Indianapolis to issue a preliminary injunction nullifying the state's ban on Delta 8 THC and other hemp-derived cannabinoids. While the lawsuit continued, in an order handed down Friday, Judge James R. Sweeney II wrote that the three plaintiffs, Three Chai LLC, the Midwest Hemp Council, and Evansville-based Walls Organics had not established irreparable harm and therefore are not entitled to a preliminary injunction. Guys, listen, Indiana is lagging behind in the cannabis industry and those cannabis dollars. People are smoking. People are smoking. We're not going to stop them from smoking. They're smoking. So all that tax revenue is going into Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, and Kentucky. Indiana's missing out because I don't know what we never learned that prohibition just doesn't work. Doesn't work. And also, our veterans who come back, they say the cannabis helps them much more than the psychopathic drugs that folks are giving them. They're not liking those. They would just rather have a joint. So even if we're not going to make it, allow recreational, we really should be talking about medical marijuana. Indiana, we're losing behind. The Indiana Public Media reports the Bloomington City Council is calling for a bilateral ceasefire in Gaza amid the ongoing Israeli-Hamas war. Council members unanimously approved a symbolic ceasefire resolution Wednesday following several weeks of public comments both for and against the action. The resolution condemns actions by both Israel and Hamas and calls for humanitarian aid in Gaza, the immediate release of hostages, and a lasting solution to the conflict. Council President Isabel Piedmont Smith and Dave Rollo co-sponsored the resolution. Piedmont Smith said she and Rollo were careful to craft the resolution in a way that seek to not alienate anyone. After many conversations with Bloomington residents, both in favor and against the resolution, we decided to move ahead due to what we feel is a moral imperative to speak out about the man-made humanitarian catastrophe, she said. So I don't watch Bloomington council meetings much because they just run too damn long. They really do. But last night, my partner, my boo, and she will probably be mad at me after I say what I'm about to say. The Bloomington city clerk had to sit there, the first African-American elected citywide in Bloomington, and listen to people talk about Hail Hitler and neo-Nazi slogans and white power. And she, as the city clerk, is not really allowed to say much because she's the city clerk. In her role, she has to, maintain decorum. But you know what? Somebody could have said something while you had people of color in this room. You got Isak Ater, who is on the council. You got, you have a Jewish council member, and then you have a black clerk, and nobody said anything. So I understand how you feel about creating your symbolic ceasefire of the Israeli-Hamas war. But what would have really been good, what would really been powerful, is if y'all had said something in support of the people of color and your Jewish council members when these folks were saying really nasty and horrific things. So don't be performative. Don't be performative in your actions. Do something. When those people were saying those nasty things, y'all should have said something, but you didn't. So, okay. You got your little symbolic, piece of legislation out there that brought all the racists out of the woodworks. They crawled out from under all their rocks in Bloomington just to come and hurl nastiness at people who are Jewish and people of color. So that's what I think about your resolution, Bloomington Democrats. I love Democrats, and y'all know I do, but stop being performative. You had an opportunity to show your true colors last night, and you didn't do it. And yeah, I'm in my feelings because my girl was sitting there, and I probably shouldn't, but I ain't a real journalist. I'm just a chick with a big mouth. I can say what I want to say. All right. And finally, WTHR reports the Marion County Prosecutor's Office is accepting applications for a program that will offer 15 to 18-year-olds a chance to provide direct input on efforts amid a youth violence prevention. Marion County youth can apply for the 2024 Youth Violence Prevention Fellowship through May 13th, a prosecutor spokesperson said on Wednesday. The prosecutor's office recognizes the need for young people's participation and input in crime prevention. Now more than ever, the commitment of local youth to share their ideas on how we can proactively reduce youth violence in our city should be fostered and rewarded. Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears said in a statement, the paid opportunity gives the youth access to resources of the prosecutor's office, and the participants will interact with elected officials, community leaders, and subject matter experts, according to the spokesperson. The program will take place on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday between July 9th and July 25th. This program also invites the fellows to research, design, and share their own strategies regarding youth violence prevention, according to the release from the office. So I would suggest you guys going online to the Marion County Prosecutor's Office, and I'm certain you guys will be able to find how to sign up for this. And if not, I will make sure that I share it on my Facebook page. But this is why I'm glad he's doing it. CNN was highlighting a weekend of shootings in Indianapolis, y'all. CNN was like, Indianapolis had like 5 mass shootings in 3 days. The fact that we were making CNN news for this, y'all, means we got to do better in the city of Indianapolis with this. But I would also suggest that maybe if people couldn't just go buy guns willy-nilly, without even having to have any kind of permit. Maybe that's one of the problems. Just my thought. Just my thought. You know, there's a lot of things that we can do better, people. And right now we see, you know, gun violence is crazy. The environment is upside down and people can't even get high to deal with all the craziness. I say let everybody do what they need to do to get themselves right. Legalize cannabis, take care of the environment, and let's get these guns off the street. All right, that's my rant for today. Now it's time to hear from my sponsor, Bohm's Unique Boutique. Today's show is brought to you by Bohm's Unique Boutique. Click on the QR code. And for all Turn Left listeners, you can get a 10% discount on your order by using the code Democrat. Be sure to visit www.bohmsuniqueboutique.com. Democrats, are you looking for an affordable content creation option? If so, look no further than Black Pearl IT Solutions and Black Pearl Studios. Indiana's own Dana Black is providing many of the communication wraparound services any Democratic organization needs. No matter the size of the budget, Indiana's own has you covered. Just scan the QR code or visit www.blackpearl_its.com. All right. Guys, nothing stops. Everything keeps moving. And you know, I'm super excited about my guest tonight. I had Joe Walsh scheduled, but he had a family emergency. So we are going to you ain't got to know his business. Just send some positive energy to his family and know that there is a spot for him on Turn Left when he is available. Okay, so positive energy, Joe Walsh family. That's it. But, you know, I went to Dingus Day on Monday. Y'all know I love taking my trip up to South Bend the first Monday after Easter. You know I love it. I have the best time of my life kicking it with my Polish Hoosiers. I mean, it's a good time. If you've never done it, you should do it. Probably not next year. Maybe, I don't know, you won't get the same experience. This was a presidential year. You should have been there. But because I had a chance to talk to and meet face to face for the first time some candidates that I hadn't actually met, I was able to get a fantastic last-minute replacement for Joe. Y'all give it up for my first guest, Jenn Shabazz, who is running for St. Joseph County Council, District D, as in Dana. Jenn, welcome to the show. And thank you for stepping in at the last minute.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me. Thank you for coming down to South Bend and celebrating Dingus Day with us.
I love it.
It is. Dingus Day is always a great time. Here in South Bend, it's really the start of the political season for us. So it's not only celebrating everything, it's getting all the candidates up, and we get the opportunity to have a good time and talk to people and really kick off this campaign season.
And get some good barbecue at the Elks Lodge. I'm just saying.
The best.
Okay.
Can't beat it.
And my second guest, someone I've known for a very, very long time. He's been holding multiple hats multiple times. Y'all give it up for David Henry, who is a candidate for Monroe County Council at Large. David, welcome to the show.
Dana, it's about time. I'm so happy to be here with you finally. This has been a long time coming. I'm happy to be here.
You're always busy though.
It's a lot of hats. Yeah. I mean, it's, for this election board, that party chair, that, but I'm so glad to be here with you.
I love it. Hey guys, was there anything in my rant that y'all wanted to rant about as well?
Well, can I start off? I mean, it's my home turf down here in Bloomington. I am the chair of the Monroe County Democrats, and I do have to, pick right up off where you left off with what happened in our community last night. Hate has no place in Bloomington, and when we have our tradition here in Bloomington of people wanting to see their elected officials, weigh in on state and national issues as well as doing the work in our community, to have, basically the Zoom bomb. We had, neo-Nazi voices in that room saying incredibly racist things in front of our whole community. I think we're also kind of getting the reverb of what happened last night. Admittedly, I didn't even get caught up on it till well past midnight. When I was reading the morning press and seeing posts online, very frustrating. I will say, to Mayor Thompson's credit, she took to Facebook Live right after the meeting. She was not in the room when that happened and immediately made comments about the hatefulness in that room last night. There was a young city councilor, our youngest city councilor, Gen Z, Sydney Zulik, 21 years old, who openly said right at the mic that your cowardice is noted, to those folks that called into that meeting to throw invectives into a space that just it was not their space to take. So we're still, I think, coming back from that. I mean, I do have a lot of empathy and full disclosure. Your friend, my friend, your partner, our clerk here, I had to live it twice because her team had to transcribe what happened last night. It wasn't just her, it's other women of color in that office that had to re-listen to that, crap, and we're going to have to, I think, come back with some, it's a little more than just, demonstrations and performative stuff. We're going to have to deal with the stuff right in our backyard before we, look in the New York Times and find national issues to weigh in on too. We have some stuff right here that we got to deal with. So I'm still reeling, Dana. I'm sorry to take up that time.
No, I first of all, thank you. Right. Thank you for, saying what needed to be said from your community. Right. I don't live in the community. I love in the community. And it's a little different. And, when I talked to Nick today, and her having to live it again and again, people don't realize how hurtful those words are and those things that they do are. And, she can't not do her job. And you know what she decided to do? She decided that she's going to do all the transcripts because she does not want anyone in her office to have to feel what she felt. Right. So she's got to do it over and over again until she gets those minutes transcribed. But I mean, I get what you're saying. And I'm thank you for sharing that. The mayor, Carrie Thompson, said something afterwards, but there was an opportunity in the moment. And I feel like, they lost that moment. And
we did. We did.
I don't know. I'm in my feelings about it, so maybe I should leave it alone. Jenn, did you have anything that you wanted to rant about?
Man, I'm just listening to what you guys are saying that happened there yesterday. And number one, I'm so sorry to hear that happened to anybody, that they had to sit there and listen to it. I can imagine sitting there of knowing, what do you speak? What do you say? Do you stay silent? What is the best form of action to do at that point in time? But I'm with you, Dana. So we have to speak up. And I think that's why, I know that's why I'm running for office, is to start speaking up, is that I can't sit back. We cannot sit back and give these people the mic and let them run and say what they want to say. Your words have actions, your words have consequences. And I think that's important to remember across the board. So that's my stance on that. I just didn't know it was coming of what you guys were going to say there. I agree. I wholeheartedly do support, a ceasefire, releasing hostages, allowing more aid into Gaza, all of those things. Medical marijuana is the place to start here in Indiana. It's all across, I live 10 miles from the Michigan border. So I enjoyed your rant. I'm going to go with that.
Okay. I love it. I love it. All right. Let's get to know who you all are. We're going to go in alphabetical order. David Henry, tell the people tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Hey, sure. No, I'm David Henry. I'm running here at large in Monroe County for our county council in our at-large districts. I've called Bloomington and Monroe County home for about 20 years. I moved here from Appalachia and the Rust Belt. I was born in Western PA and grew up around Cleveland, and came to school here like a lot of people do, and kind of find a home, and there's quite a few Bloomingtonians that come here by way of going to Indiana University and really finding a forever home, and that's my story there. But yeah, locally in the community, I think all of us that are kind of the children of 2016 that got back into politics when we saw what happened with the election of Donald Trump in 2016.
Don't say that name no more. He's the Orange Menace.
The Orange Menace, off the bench. Got to deal with the Orange Menace. And there's quite a few of us that have cut our teeth here in the past 8 years, really getting back into our politics in the community. I'm one of those. And so, getting involved first in activism and trying to chase out a member of Congress who moved here from another orange place, Tennessee, Trey Hollingsworth.
Tennessee,
chasing that guy for a whole term to try to get him out. And then, found my way into party politics. And so I'm very fortunate to be the chair of the Monroe County Democratic Party. It is, It is the blue dot, or as I say, the blue ink stain on the red sweater of the Republican Party in the state of Indiana. And I'm glad that we're not coming out anytime soon. But that's my story on that. Happy to run for county council here. We had an opportunity to open up with a longtime member of our county council, Jeff McKim, who's retiring after 16 years. And, we've got some big decisions to make in Monroe County. And we also just need to use that space to fund our values better. We don't often put our money where our mouth is in Bloomington. We just had a little bit of that discussion. Sometimes campaigns get a little, preachy about when it comes time to paying for stuff. If we're going to put money into housing affordability, if we're going to put money into trying to once and for all address our homelessness crisis here, we need some people on county council to understand that the power of the purse is a moral document. I mean, it is where we put our money where our mouth is. So I'm up for that.
So let me ask you this: was it those years in those Union Rust Belt areas that got you interested in politics?
Oh, yeah. It's funny. I was actually thinking about my first campaign, and it was probably when I was like 6 years old when my union dad, was putting campaign signs in Western PA for my cousin who was running for county commissioner back there. And so it's just always been a pulse, Dana. There's been those times where, in public schools where in Ohio we had school funding based at the ballot box where you voted on levies, and, being a high school student having to basically, campaign for your community to vote to provide the money for you to continue to have a quality education. Getting involved in campaigns off and on over the years. But a lot of my work has been in the public policy side, on the government side or public policy side for the past 20 years. And so you get to be, in government doing that work, but, being in the political side, I've always had this just back and forth relationship with being involved in the conversation.
I love it. And so when you became, I know that you were the vice chair under my girl, Jenn Crossley. Jay Cross.
Always my chair, too. And I always tell her that. She's always going to be my chair, even though I'm the chair now. So
yeah. So what? I mean, I think there's a difference between like party politics and being in the party and then even being a candidate, right? What do you see as like the biggest difference from being the leader of the local party versus being the candidate?
Well, I think being party chair is a lot about learning how to ride a lot of horses at the same time. And it's how you get everybody moving in one direction without, trying to control that message. Now, every county in the state on the Democratic Party side has some different structures and how their parties work. But in Monroe County, we've been very transparent about the way we do business. Our precinct lists are wide open. Anyone can look them up on the website and know who their precinct committee is here. And it's a part of it is just getting the whole herd to move in one direction and allowing people to run on their voices. And my job is, and I've always viewed it this way, is just getting people on the playing field, like the tools you need, who you need to talk to, how you get going in running for office here. Being a candidate, now I've got a voice now, right? Because a party chair, no one wants to hear what the party chair thinks about things. That's what the candidates do. But when you put your name on a ballot, all of a sudden people are a little surprised you have opinions about stuff. And that's been kind of an interesting balance to say, I'm not talking as the chair of the Monroe County Democratic Party tonight. I'm talking as a candidate for office that is concerned about issues in my community. And so that is a little bit of a juggle. And I'll say this too, like other counties, I know we've got elected officials that chair county parties all over Indiana. Monroe County, it's like a once in a almost eclipse type of scenario where, every maybe decade we have somebody that wanders. Yeah, I know. I got to try them, man. But that's it. So it's about giving all that space to let people have their voice, but at the same time, like I've got one too, and sometimes people are surprised sometimes how left that is because I tend to keep those cards closely held so others have an opportunity to get their voice into our primary and general cycle down here. But it's a really good question.
I love it.
It's a really good question. Yeah.
Jenn, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
All right. Well, I have been here in South Bend since about 2020. I moved here, or I'm sorry, 2000. Been here for about 24 years. Once I graduated, I got a job teaching in South Bend, and so I made this my home. And 2000 election, if you remember that election, and it was not the best presidential election of my lifetime, to say the least. And I walked into Democratic headquarters. I had no idea who anybody was. And I just said, what do I do? What do I do? What can I do? Do I stuff envelopes? Do I knock on doors? Do I call people? I just knew I needed to do something. And so I started doing that and just started helping out, electing Democrats here in our area for the past 24 years.
Wow.
I got the privilege of working. I was the regional field director for Organizing for America. So President Obama, after he was elected, his campaign turned that political organization into a political organization to help pass health care, the ACA, otherwise now obviously known as Obamacare. So I love the name Obamacare, but I always go back to the ACA as well and the fight that we took that on. So when I first started working for them in 2008, I had the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd congressional district of Indiana before we hired some more organizers. Which I was very thankful we hired some more because it was a lot of driving that I was doing, going in circles and meeting just the most amazing, dedicated volunteers that were there to just do the hard work. And I had always been a volunteer doing the hard work. I call it the grunt work. Whatever needed to be done to elect people, that's what I did. I never, even when I was an organizer, I never thought, oh, I don't make phone calls. I made phone calls next to my volunteers. I knocked on doors next to my volunteers because I don't believe that you're ever done with that. You never get to a point in time where you say, oh, I don't have to make calls. I've been doing this for so long.
Baby.
No, you keep making calls. You keep doing the work if you believe in it. And I kept doing it. And I've been an educator as well. So I've spent many years as an educator in a classroom and in a school. About 2 years ago here in St. Joe County, though, we took for granted, I think, our vote. We took for granted that we've been a Democratic county for so long, and we lost 2 years ago. We lost our county council. We lost our county commissioner. The list goes on. What we won was very small. And the after effect of that of the past 2 years has been watching the extremists enter our area. And I don't believe for a minute that they are the voice of the people that live here. I believe we didn't get out and we didn't vote. So what do? I decided I'm going to run for office. I'm going to be that person. I'm going to go to the other side of being the organizer, and I'm going to be the candidate. So I am the candidate for County Council District D here, and it's been the person that's held this seat. He's held this seat since 1992. He's actually running for a different seat, so it's an open seat that I'm running in. And it's exciting, but man, is it different being a candidate than being on the other side and being the organizer.
I love it. Hey guys, listen, we're talking to two amazing candidates tonight. We're talking to David Henry, candidate from Monroe County Council at large, and we're talking to Jennifer Shabazz, St. Joseph County candidate for County Council, District D. And if you guys are liking what they're talking about, click the donate link, right? Every candidate, every campaign can use some dollars. Yes, Turn Left is forever a fundraiser. Please click the donate link, donate to these candidates because they can definitely use the help, whether it's $5 a month, just anything will help. Anything you got, we will take, and all the donations will be split between these two candidates. All right, guys, let's talk about what's going on in your communities, right? There's always, Jen, you talked about how we lost seats that we normally held was one of the main reasons why you decided to run for office. But what other issues that are happening within your community that you saw with the loss of that seat that may have negatively impacted the community, why it's imperative for us as Ds to get that back?
There's so many. In such a short amount of time, I never thought it could go from one extreme to the other. So we can start with our health board. They have dismantled our health board here to the point they drove away the doctor that had been really just one of the top doctors we'd ever had, drove him out. They've used the word equity and the word CDC guidelines to say, we're not going to go for those grants because the word equity is in it. I have no idea why or when the word equity has become a bad word or a word that we would not use to help with grants. They have denied.
Always need a boogeyman, and now the boogeyman is equity. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just.
No, you are fine. They went after our library board. They were trying to ban books here in our public library, and thankfully, very thankfully, we protected it. The council did vote to keep the library board director in his space, and so we are not banning books here, which is wonderful.
Yay.
But we had to fight for it. The community came out in droves to fight to stand up for our library. They came out to fight for our health board. and it's crazy to me. These are things we shouldn't have to be spending our time to fight for what's right, but we are. They closed Portage Manor, which is a mental health facility down the road here from me that had our most vulnerable citizens in there, and they moved them to Fort Wayne. I've been on the doors talking to people who say they went to visit their friends and family members in Fort Wayne, and they are unhappy with how far they have to go. They're unhappy with the conditions that they're at, and we know we're going to need more long-term beds in the future, not less. That is not what's going to happen. So it's just continuous, Dana. It's a lot of fighting, and I've seen it coming, attacking me personally as well. But we can get into that.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that. We're gonna actually we're gonna close the show with that.
Sounds good.
So, David, same question. Open seat, and it is the blueberry in the whatever red rose lily. I don't know. I can't come up with any analogy right now. I draw a blank. What are the issues? What are the issues that you see that need some work in Bloomington or in Monroe County?
Yeah, good question, a different question, because in a lot of ways the challenges we have, the Democratic Party has to own too. I think if there's a thread here tonight with your rant and starting through this, is that we have some challenges here, and it's been on our party's watch. So the Democratic Party in our community has had county control and city control for some time, nearly 20 years in the county and almost 50 years in the city. And but we have some things that have been kind of neglected and kicked down the road. And it's not any one terms issue, but it's multiple terms of challenges. And so here's the story. So we have a jail that has been ruled by the ACLU through consent decree to be an unconstitutional facility. And that lawsuit was started in 2008. In a lot of ways, when I worked in county government in 2005, 2006, we already knew this was the story. I worked in public health, and to have working in the county public health department, to have the open secret that our jail had been falling apart almost for 20 years now. And so, no one wants to build a jail on their watch. That's what it comes down to in a community, because there are other things we have to think about when it comes to building a criminal justice system. It's not just putting up a new facility to put people in and having more space to put more people in. It is building a holistic solution that makes sure that when our judges have the options in front of them of diversion, of mental health treatment, of work release, of probation, that the jail that we have, if you have to send someone to it, is constitutional and not a gulag in the middle of Bloomington. This is a huge stain on our community that is going to require some people to roll up sleeves and finally get stuff done, which means passing either bond measures to fund a facility that really reflects the 21st century criminal justice in our community. You mentioned this cannabis stuff at the beginning end. I mean, one thing the state could do us a huge favor on to help, decriminalize cannabis and help us, not have the vendors showing up in courts. That would be a huge step to help out my community. Yeah. That's just one, right? So we have to own that mistake a bit. And this is the term to get it done. We need the solution before the federal government, through a law court order, tells us this is the jail you're going to build, and it's going to be X big, and you're going to have 1,000 beds or whatever we do here. I mean, we have to get this under control in a hurry and get some decision makers in there to get it done. Secondly, I got to tell you, you mentioned my Rust Belt background, and it's the thing that's on my mind. I got a community that, I've been Indiana University. We've got some nice stuff around our square that only about 20% of our community can really indulge in any given day. We have a community that this morning, 5,000 kids woke up and went to school and were eligible for free and reduced lunch. 1 out of every 4 people live in Monroe County live in poverty. Wow. And while some people are doing pretty well, there's a whole lot of people downwind that aren't doing well, and they checked out. They don't vote. They need the services, but they're not engaged in our conversation. And it's that stuff, and there's really kind of, a few different kinds of Democrats around here. If you're the kind of Democrat that drives around town and you just want to cry at a stoplight because you see the poverty in our community, I'm talking to those folks today. I'm talking to county employees, 700 of them, where I've got county employees with 2 college degrees that can't afford to buy a house, and they are on food stamps serving our community. Wow. We got to get some of these systemic poverty issues under control. And it's the kind of stuff, it's not the stuff people want to talk about on a campaign trail, but that's why I'm in this. And those are some huge things. We got to get poverty under control. We got to get our aging infrastructure under control. And ultimately, we got to unleash some, new housing opportunities here and new job opportunities here, or, it's going to get a lot more expensive to live in my county. There's no tax base to pay for everything falling apart. But there's a lot of work to get done to really get those partnerships, good listeners, get stuff done people in, and to fund our values on that stuff. Because county councils where again, put our money where our mouth is on these things. So that's a lot, Dana. I mean, it's the stuff we don't talk about outside the family sometimes, but
yeah, I know,
it's
listen,
a little too much.
We still within the family. Republicans ain't listening to me.
Yeah.
They not watching this show.
Yeah.
So you still talking amongst, we still in house.
Fair.
And that jail has been a bone of contention for a lot of people. So I gotta ask you this.
Fair.
Are you in favor of putting the jail in a place where people who will need public transportation can once they're there and they're ready to go, they can get home? Or are you in favor of putting it out so that it's not in the city, but it's kind of out in the county and, good luck getting home, but it, less traffic in a more rural area? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, the facility needs to be close to all the services I mentioned getting up to it, right? So at the end of the day, I mean, if you have the court system is in the heart of a community, and we need to have our entire enterprise in the heart of the community. And if you're somebody that's moving through that process, you're in court, you're off to PO, you're off to, if it is treatment for you, all those lifelines need to be tightly knit into where the other resources are, because you've touched on it. I mean, if somebody is released from jail, and they're released from jail in a cornfield and it's 5 miles away and you got to huff down to a bus stop that's a mile away, we are doing nothing to help with the core value of restorative justice and making people whole in our party, which we really stand for. And so this is sometimes, like, I've sadly, I've read in the Democratic National Committee platform into some meetings around here to remind my fellow Democrats that we actually have a national idea about restorative justice. And part of that is really accepting that whatever we build needs to be really proximate to the services that get us where we need to go to really make people whole. And it's not just victims whole, but it's people that we want to see rejoin civil society in a reasonable way. And that's it. So no, I'm very much for figuring out a solution to keep things quite tight and close in our community. I know there's some other options being explored, but I think that's part of that answer, Dana. We've been exploring things for 18 years over 4 different terms, and sometimes you just have to, and we have to make some decisions. I mean, that's it. We can't keep kicking it down the road.
Yeah. And I think that answer is when I talk to candidates who are running, that is the dividing line when it comes to Democrats in Bloomington. But you know what, Jenn, you said something, you talked about something that was, somewhat problematic. You have people who have mental health issues and are seeking treatment the best way they can. And they moved them from an environment where they're close to family and friends to Fort Wayne. What is that? About an hour and a half, 2 hours away from, because you don't get on a major highway. You got to get on some back roads and around the corner and go through a few cornfields and talk to a few cows before you can get from South Bend to Fort Wayne. Talk about.
And they did it quickly too.
Wow. So to me, it goes back to what David was talking about. These folks have now been displaced from their families. Like, I can't even imagine. Tell us what some of your community members have been expressing when, their loved one who they're not happy for multiple reasons. You displace them and they're away from their families and they can't get to them. Tell me what they're saying to me, and then also tell me what your ideas are on how to remedy this.
Well, number one, they moved so fast to do this. It was there was multiple committees that were putting forth efforts of different ways to save it. The building needed a lot of repair, but they were determined that it was going to close. They were going to move it on. It would be safe to say that will be redeveloped into something else. And that, I believe, is probably the result of why they ended up moving so quickly. Now we literally have been paying thousands of dollars a month for security to sit in front of an empty building.
What?
To secure it.
What?
Yes, sometimes there's police cars. There is a security group that sits out there and they patrol it to patrol Portage Manor to keep it safe. But there's nobody living there, and they were not securing it and driving through there and spending the money on it when it was there and it was open and it was trying to serve the people that it needed to. So there's definitely an underlining reason as to why they moved quickly and why they are so protective of that area of some of our councilmen that are sitting there to make sure that
check. Follow the money. Follow the
money and follow the way it went. But, I will tell you probably the best, not the best, but the story that I would say that stands out to me is I knocked on this gentleman's door. And, when you're knocking on somebody's door and you're using the minivan, it tells you their age and that type of thing. And I look at it and this gentleman's 90 years old. And I think, I always feel bad as having somebody get up to come to the door to talk to you. And he's in the middle of eating as well. So now I feel even more bad. So now you're getting up, you're eating, I feel like I'm interrupting you. He came outside and he talked to me for a good 10, 15 minutes.
Wow.
Just about his friends and that he doesn't see them anymore. And that how did they make it so they moved there and he can't go visit them. And then he went once and it was just, he's like, the food was horrible. This was bad. So, we're not looking out for the people we need to look out for. Wow. People are following the money and they're not following the people of what's needed. And that is a result, again, of people not getting out to vote. I don't know how, you sat there at Dingus Day, you heard us. We've got to vote. When Democrats vote, Democrats win.
Yeah.
When Democrats don't vote and when Democrats stay home, we don't win. And it takes us, we see what happens. We see what we're up against. Well, there's a long game that we've been fighting and we have to start. We can't stop.
Well, and what's so scary is that did they not even take into consideration that these were actual humans that had feelings and lives? They just up and move these people?
Nope. They did not. If they did take it in consideration, it was a quick consideration, I would say.
Wow. It sounds like you guys have some. So you didn't answer the second part of the question. The second part was, what ideas do you have to help maybe remedy this?
So unfortunately, there's not a going backwards, right? Oh. That's the unfortunate part. There isn't finding another space and opening it up and bringing all these people back. That's the hard part because backwards isn't going to work in this situation. I think not necessarily a remedy for this situation, but one thing that we're working on here is a low barrier intake homeless shelter.
Okay.
And there's a lot of fight of where it will be and the different locations that it can be. And people are, saying they don't want it in their neighborhood. They don't want it in this neighborhood. They want it to be, they want everybody to be downtown, or they want them to be out, they want them out, or then it's a business that it's near, and that these homeless people are going to destroy their neighborhoods, and that homeless people are going to come from all over the country to South Bend because there's a low barrier homeless intake shelter.
Wait a minute, Jen. I thought all the homeless people were in Bloomington. Because that's the way they talking. Wait a minute, somebody's been pulling my leg all these years. So, because
they must be getting ready to come here once we open this. And that's the thing. Like we have to open this intake center. We have to break ground for this. This is another group of vulnerable people. This is a mental health issue. We have to look out for these people because they're people, like you said, Dana. It's not money.
Yeah. We seem to, it seems like our politics or sometimes decisions that are being made don't actually take into consideration that you're talking about humans, like, flesh and blood, because it doesn't actually impact them directly. They're like, what's 5 people? Like I literally had, and this has nothing to do with y'all, but I literally had a conversation with somebody this week about school choice. And I know how I feel about it. But the question that can never get answered is if you put certain programs in certain schools and it's all spread out all over the city where each school is autonomous, if a person is on the north side and they need the services of something they're on the south side, how do they get there? And then if they can't get there because mom and dad have to work, or a single parent has to work, and there's no transportation, that means they have to go to the school that's closest to them. And they're not going to get those services because that school doesn't offer those services. And so I asked, why can't we make services scalable in that you put the services where they're needed? And if I'm paying taxes for public schools, every public school should be able to service every student. And I can't break this. I can't never get this out of my mind that every public school should be able to serve every student that attends that school. This semester, you may not need this service, so you transfer it where you might need it. It's scalable. Anyway, I'm sorry. And Jen, you're the teacher. I'm probably, I don't know. I don't know if I'm saying anything that you like or don't like. I feel some kind of way about it.
It's very difficult the way that I think the way that the public schools, they're trying to compete against charter schools. Mm-hmm. And in the end, when they're making that competition and they're deciding where to put certain things, it's just not fair. It's not fair to the kids. It's not fair to the teachers that are depending on if you're coming from the school that has everything or you're going to the school that doesn't have it. It's not fair to the parents because where you live should not be dependent on the type of education that your child or you get.
I say it all the time. And think about it. Where they live is their income, right? They are where they can afford to live, right? And so why should and I've said it in almost every speech that I've given over the last 8 years, a child's education should not be dependent on how much the parent makes. It should not. And so I'm sorry, Davidson, did you want to chime in on this education discussion that we're having?
Well, I would say, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I've often said to, I have several good friends and fellow Democrats who are on our school boards here. Of course, it is a nonpartisan board here, but, we all wear different hats. And I'll say out loud, I've often said to them behind closed doors that it is the most unenviable position to run for because I do think this is a place where when we get into questions of the zones around elementary schools or some of the integration challenges, that those meetings are as contentious as a lot of what we just saw in Bloomington last night, where you get to know someone when you start talking about money, you start talking about children, you start to see the real feelings come out, mm-hmm. and you can form and post on social media and have share memes about public education all day long. But when we start seeing those decisions made that you're talking about that are corrective and trying to expand opportunities, boy, do you start to learn about your neighbors in a hurry. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things that if you just sometimes it makes you wonder if we just hold up a mirror, and we have some serious conversations about, and maybe a playback on, if you go back and watch the public meeting on public access TV of the way everyone sounded, you might get a sense of where the community lies. It is an incredibly challenging space. And I don't envy a single one of my school board members. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for all of them because they've put their neck out there to try to make our little corner of the map a little more equitable. Good on them. I mean, that's really it.
I mean, it just, again, it's public education. Public dollars go toward public education. And therefore, anyone, I think, attends any public school that gets my tax dollars, they should be able to get what they need in their neighborhood school. That is just me. I'm going with it. But just a note, a good segue. School board members are on the ballot this year. School board elections are on the ballot this year. They won't show up until November, but they're on the ballot. So even if you don't agree with me and you want to, find a candidate that disagrees with what I just said, fine. Just get out and vote. School board is on the ballot. They were trying to ban books in St. Joe County. School board is on the ballot. Guys, we talk about a lot of, abstract issues and I just had a rant about school board, but sometimes there's real tangible things that you guys can do. You guys are running for county council. I'm going to do something a little different. A conversation between the two of you all on what that county council role is and what you guys are allowed to do to improve what your community needs. And y'all just talk amongst yourselves.
Sure. I don't quite know the contours in St. Joe's, and I know sometimes St. Joe's has some only in St. Joe's things that go on. So I'm kind of curious how this works. But my view on this is pretty simple. I mean, county council is a hard role to explain to somebody at a door because they think, oh, county commissioner, right? You get to make all the zoning and pass all the ordinances. No, we do none of that, right? It's all about fiscal control and making sure that the ideas that are being put forward are fundable. And I guess as I've really gotten into understanding this role, which is 100% unique in our country, right? Like there's no other state that has this kind of elected fiscal check on a commission. There are very few states have a legislative county body, but here it's Indiana, right? But down here, my view is pretty simple. I mean, there's the county budget is very tight. A lot of our budget goes to criminal justice here. Half of the $130 million budget goes to criminal justice here in Monroe County. But the other piece of that is there is some discretionary, and we have some very modest grant programs. One is named after a late county councilor down here, Sophia Travis, who I got to work with when I was in public health. And we fund that program about $150,000 a year, and we've got 24 NGOs that try to get 1,000 here, 1,000 there to do little things like just keep the Planned Parenthood, a little thing to keep that place a little more functioning. A little, maybe something like an AED or a heart defibrillator for the homeless shelter. Yeah. These nickel and dime things. A little more money that goes to our food pantry that services 62,000 families in 6 counties around here. So I guess what I'd start off with is like, if one thing I want to work on is getting a little bit more and maybe a hell of a lot more money into that discretionary fund that we have here locally. We have ARPA funding that still is on the books. It hasn't been allocated. We have a vehicle to push money into our nonprofits to help to shore up a lot of these challenges. And we should be using that discretionary budget around poverty issues and especially access issues now that we have to battle a state house taking away reproductive rights to fund every bit of that up to the letter of the law here. I'm looking to do stuff like that using the discretionary tools we have to shove more money into those organizations and know what they're doing. Jen, I don't know if you got that lever. I don't know if you got that lever your way, but we can do more here.
Can I just say before you keep going, because you're the first person that I have spoken to on a local, either municipal or a county council level, who talked about how in their positions they can impact reproductive health for women, for the abortion ban. That is, I talk to a lot of candidates. I talk to candidates all the time, and nobody talked about how they can use their position to counteract some of the negative stuff that's coming out of the State House. So I want to just... I don't want to step on Jen's toes here, Dana, but I think, let's just be frank. I think we get scared, right? We hear, oh, well, if we do something down here, the big boogeyman, Todd Rokita, is coming for Bloomington, and if we take that risk, if we maybe follow your prosecutor's lead on to criminalization, there's some challenges there, right? Like we get scared in Bloomington sometimes. And I guess what I'm saying in that statement is we have a vehicle to move funding to organizations that do good work. Let's test the water and how much we can do before, I guess we attract the attention, which we're pretty good at it. I mean, the State House likes to pass laws that punish Bloomington about every session. They're pretty darn good at it. Y'all get as many as we do.
So yeah, I know. I mean, I try to pay attention to Marion. I really do.
They come for us every 15 minutes.
I don't want to step on your toes there, Jen, but I'm trying to figure out ways to use the levers we've got. Once we've paid our bills, once we've paid our debt, there's some discretionary things we can do, and that's what I'm looking at.
Jen, you got a lot. Whoa, he came out the box swinging.
He came out of the box. Yeah, I'm gonna go yes. I'm gonna smile and nod, right? A lot of smile and nod there. But I mean, it does. It comes down to really looking at the health of people, the health of the community, looking at just what's good for our residents, what we have going on there. Here locally, so we have grants that were put forth to help with lead. I actually live in one of the areas that had some of the highest lead coming out of it. And so one of the grants was specifically to hire basically social workers that were going to go and help and look at the children that are being seen that they have higher lead in their area. And could have done maybe 25, 30 kids a week, right around there. Don't quote me exactly on that number, but they're down to maybe doing 4 or 5 kids a week. So we're not even they're not even getting up to where they need to be with the grant money that they have. So for here right now, it's looking at what we have and what we're not doing with it. That's just a tip of the iceberg of so many different things. And we just need to work together as a community. We have to look at all of our residents. We have to look at exactly like you said, David. Thank you so much for talking about women's rights. Yes. Because I stood on a corner for a year straight every Tuesday holding signs with amazing men and women for abortion. Just standing there holding signs, letting people know, and people honked and cheered and clapped. We knew we weren't going to win here in Indiana. We knew what was coming at us, but we weren't going to stop. And so hearing other people talk about it and hearing about the different ways that we can continue that fight, even if we can't fight it at this, where we're at, it's just about the health of our residents and what we can do, what services we have that we can improve upon, and what we can make sure we're getting the full amount of what we have.
Jen, what is the makeup? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, David.
I was just going to say real fast. I mean, our only way we relate to what you said here in Monroe County is that, we see that kind of behavior in townships sometimes, because like we do have some townships that still have Republican control. And there's a night and day story sometimes about how one township government will work on that direct charitable relief, poverty relief. And then the next township over might not even spend any of those resources. And so that's really important. I mean, I'm glad, but we don't experience it the way you do, Jen, at the county level. And I can't believe that you've got county offices that aren't expending every dollar that they get from CDC and others on lead. That just is mind boggling.
That's crazy. That's neglect.
It's there. It's just, that's the job. Like, you got the grant to just do the work. I mean, thank you for getting in that. Oh my gosh.
And Jen, what is the makeup of the council now? What is it lean, right? I mean, what's the numbers?
It's 5-4 Republican. I would also include using the word Republican, we have some MAGA extremists, if you will, that got on the council 2 years ago, and this is the result of that.
And things come down party lines, don't they?
Things come down party lines, and it is a direct result of that. And the personal attacks are incredible on a candidate. I now know why it is so hard not to run for office.
Tell us about it. Tell us your story. Tell us your story.
I'll give you a quick rundown. So when I first announced I was running for office, in January, it was probably 3 weeks into it. I have never in my life heard of the group Libs for TikTok. So if you haven't, congratulations. And if you have, I hope you've never been a part of it. So they posted an article of a blogger around here. And my phone rang all night from people calling me, harassing, horrible messages, calling into my place of work, doing as much as they could. I mean, it was pretty bad. They were assaulting me. The article was on my support of LGBTQ rights and for women's rights, for standing up for what I believe in. And they came after in every sense of the word, calling me names that I can't even imagine, they would focus on my looks. They would focus on just being a woman. They'd focus on my name, assuming that, I was asking me one person specifically, I remember, I'll never forget, asked me what tribe I was from.
Oh, Jesus.
Telling me to go back to where I came from. I mean, just the insanity, but it has not stopped. I woke up Easter morning to 3 tires slashed.
Oh, what?
So, I mean, that part was, the beginning of it was not local. It was, crazy people from all across the country putting in. I mean, it had some insane 4 million views of this stuff. I mean, it was just ridiculous. It was ridiculous. But it was actually on my daughter's birthday. I'll never forget, because I was out to dinner with my daughter for her 18th birthday, and my phone just started going, and I'm like, what is going on? And that's what it was. And then Easter morning, I woke up to my daughter's tires slashed and mine.
Wow. All because you want to protect other tax-paying citizens in your community or their children. That is.
And you know what it's made me do? Fight harder. Because if they're coming after me that strong, I know I'm doing something right. I know my fight is worth it. And their scare tactics and their fear will not work. So I am knocking on more doors, talking to more people, hopefully raising more money.
Y'all better click that link and donate. Y'all better click the link and donate. Oh my God. And you know what? Yes, thank you. Because the next question I was going to ask was, how do you stay in the fight, and how did you not let the terrorists run you out? And you mentioned it. You know your value.
You can't let them win, because that's what they want. I'm thinking, you started the show when you started your show, your rant, and listening to David talk about what happened there yesterday. You got to stand up. We have to stand up to these people. They cannot win. They cannot say whatever they want. it's not
well,
right.
they can say it. They just need to understand that right. They can say it. They just need to know they're going to get a pushback, and we're going to be just as loud and as vigilant as they are. Because I mean, I understand, being polite in politics is cool, but when you sometimes you need some dogs, right? Sometimes you need some dogs to get out there and be with they dumbasses. Because not all Republicans are racist, but most racists are Republicans. Most, because I'm not gonna say that because there's some Democrats that I know for sure. But my point is we need some dogs that are willing to stand up to them. You ain't got to go seek trouble, but when they show their ugly heads, you gotta be there. So I want to shout you out and say, David, you look like you want to chime in. I'm gonna let you chime in.
I was going to say, I hope there's some folks in Bloomington tonight watching, and I'll definitely share this around, because this is a challenge to my community. Like, whatever cannibalism we do in the family, and our primaries here get pretty stupid in terms of infighting sometimes. I mean, I need people in my community to hear this stuff, because we don't experience this until general election time, or like when Jim Banks takes the Libs of TikTok on a road show around the state, and they come into Bloomington. It's like, and you say, oh, wow, there's this whole other universe outside our bubble that's full of pretty scary people with teeth that apparently slash tires in St. Joe's. And, we kind of have, I think we sometimes take this for granted in my community that we have this big, primary fight here. Sometimes the infighting gets, just downright silly. And then we turn around and it's like, go talk to our neighbors in places where they're on the front line of this.
Yeah.
And I mean, so, Jen, you come down to Bloomington anytime. You want to come to one of our party dinners and tell your story. Our door's open, because we need to hear more of this, because the front lines are a lot scarier. When our state delegation comes back to Bloomington and tells us the battlefront, when Shelley Yoder and Matt Pierce are up there fighting for us up there, I need more of those tales here to remind people what the fighting's for. Yeah. And I'm glad you're in it, Jen.
Oh my gosh, guys. This was a great, wonderful conversation, and we could probably go on for another half an hour. But even though we started late, we're still over an hour. So, Jen, tell the people where they can find. I'm almost scared to say my normal closing line, because but tell the people where they can find you so they can support your campaign.
So they can go to votejen.com is my website and check everything out there. Or if they just want to go the easy route to Facebook, it's Jenn Shabazz for County Council. Share it, click it, donate it. We love you. We appreciate all the support.
And do you have any events coming up, any volunteer opportunities or anything like that?
I got canvassing every day. So Dana, I have 45 doors to go, and I will officially myself knock down 1,000 doors.
Come on now, come on with it. That's a candidate that's putting in work. Is your candidate on your ballot putting in that much work? You need to ask, are you putting in as much work as my girl down there? Are you? What kind of candidate are you? David, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm at votedavidhenry.com. It's got links off to all the other socials there. 2 first names, votedavidhenry.com. That's where I'm at. And it's been a good ride here. I have a little more camaraderie in my primary. I actually appointed all my opponents to our precinct committee here, so we have a good rapport. We're having the debate that we need to have to put our next 3 on county council here. In terms of events, I will have some stuff out on socials, but we'll be doing an event at a bookstore here in Bloomington, Steve's Bookorama, on April 18 at a little bit of fundraiser, but also really to keep having this conversation like we had tonight, Dana, about where we're going in our community. So I look forward to seeing some folks in Bloomington as we close this out.
All right. I love it. All right, guys, listen. Donate to these candidates. Every candidate needs a little bit of help. I've had one of David's opponents on, primary opponents on. I try to get as many candidates as I can. I do not play favorites in the primary, but I want the whole goal is to get you familiar with who these candidates are. And if you don't have a lot of money, that's okay. Either give up time, talent, or treasure, because like they said, we got to get involved because the crazies are taking over. Don't hang up, y'all. I got one last thing that I want to shout out. Oh, wrong button. I got one more thing that I want to shout out before we close it out tonight. Jen talked about what her experiences have been while she's running for office. But if you guys if you don't know, and if you're not familiar, today is the anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. You see, the behavior that she's experiencing right now, it ain't new. And for all of these anti-woke people who want to be asleep and put their head buried in the sand, it ain't left us either. It's still happening. It's still, people are still having political violence committed against them. See, the reason why Ron DeSantis, don't want us to learn about history and learn the truth about history, because we might be able to see it coming when it's starting to show up in our faces. See, sometimes, you think, oh my God, these people are uncomfortable. We can't talk about it. Can you imagine? I'm talking to my people who are not in the minority. Can you imagine being in a room or being in a classroom where every lesson every day is talking about people that ain't you? That you had absolutely nothing to do to contribute to humanity. And the only time that they do talk about you is because you were being oppressed, or whatever it was that made you great was because you were being oppressed and you fought oppression. Not because you were solid thinkers, not because, oh yeah, we do talk about singers and dancers and ball players. And we do get one scientist every now and then, right? But this is they don't understand the damage that they caused all those years by pretending like we didn't offer anything. And the fact that people like Ron DeSantis want to suggest that, the institution of having enslaved people was like a job training corps, to be so insulting to suggest that people who came over from African nations didn't already have a set of skills of their own that taught these can't stand the heat to pick their own damn cotton European settlers. Today is the anniversary when they shot down the Prince of Peace. He talked about being nonviolent when violence was being perpetrated against him and the things that he was fighting, and the people who were in the fight with him every day. He lived a Christ-like existence. I'm not going to say the man was perfect. He was not. But he did everything that he could to show you and talk to you about the value of humanity, and they shot him dead. They shot him dead. They bugged his phones. They wiretapped him. They saw him, they listed him as a national threat. But the Orange Menace can run for president and stand up on stage and talk about, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath. And they cool with it. So I need you to understand. Don't tell me both parties are the same. Don't tell me that. Because one party is ready to destroy democracy and institute authoritarianism, and they want to do it in our state house with Mike Braun. He can't, I think he literally gets excited every time, and I'm talking about the real excitement, whenever he gets to mention that he's endorsed by that Orange Menace. Jim Banks, the little sleazeball, he always running around talking about, I'm endorsed by the Orange Menace. And that's what's going to be running our state house with this. And we got to flip seats, because we got to break the supermajority, y'all, because some people want to keep democracy and some people want to get rid of it. Now, for Jenn, I'm telling you, boo, hang in there. We got your back. If you need us, we will rally up to South Bend and we'll be there for you. Because here's the thing. We know what they're capable of. Our history tells us when white folks feel like they trapped when it comes to this country, and they feel caged and they ready to come out swinging, they will burn down your whole community and be like, we didn't know. Don't think because these things happened in the 1920s or in the 1950s that it can't happen in the 2024. It's already happening. The tiki torch, khaki polo wearing boys was marching up and down the street in Charlottesville. And if you get the Orange Menace back into the White House, he already told you want to throw out the Constitution. He already told you. He told you he's going to be a dictator on day one. He told you. Believe him. And Jenn just shared with you her real life experiences of what these people are capable of. So look, on this anniversary of the assassination of the Prince of Peace, check your voter registration. April 8th is the deadline to get registered to vote for this May primary in Indiana. Check your voter registration and then go to the polls and take a friend with you. And then over the summer, let's get ready to rally around our candidates who are speaking truth to power and are wanting to maintain democracy. And let's get out and support and elect these folks so that we can take care of the over 6 million Hoosiers, even the ones that don't think like us. All right. Y'all know I got more candidates coming on the show. So be sure to tune in next week, and I will holler at y'all next time. Peace.
Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions. Executive producer, Indiana's own Dana Black. Music by www.bensound.com.